By the time you were 10, you didn't just play at the edges of the world, you understood it. That idea can sound surprising today, yet for many British children decades ago, it felt entirely normal. You knew which streets felt safe, which neighbors to nod at, and how long a journey should take. Compare that with now, where childhood often feels carefully managed and closely watched. Back then, responsibility arrived quietly, not announced, simply expected. And as these memories surface, something stirs, a recognition that growing up once happened faster, earlier, and with far less fuss than today overall. To understand why children grew up so quickly, you have to picture the country they were born into. Britain was still mending itself, not dramatically, but quietly, day by day. Homes were smaller, often shared by more people, and space was something you learned to respect early on. There were fewer distractions pulling attention indoors, so life spilled out onto streets, doorsteps, and corners. In those households, expectations were clear without ever being written down. You helped because everyone did. You learned routines by watching, not asking, and time was marked by meals, chores, and familiar sounds drifting through the day. Childhood wasn't wrapped in padding, it sat naturally alongside adult life. Step outside, and the street itself became an extension of home. Names were known, faces recognized, and small mistakes gently corrected by whoever happened to notice. That sense of being seen created confidence as much as caution. In a country rebuilding its rhythm, children weren't pushed to grow up. They simply stepped into the gaps left waiting. It was necessity, not nostalgia, that shaped those early years, teaching practical sense, quiet resilience, and a feeling that belonging meant contributing, even when you were small and still learning daily. One of the most forgotten parts of growing up then was just how much trust sat quietly on young shoulders. Walking to school alone wasn't a badge of bravery. It was simply the morning routine. Footsteps echoed on pavements, school bags bumped against coats, and the world felt manageable, not frightening. Errands came next. A small list, a few coins counted carefully into a warm palm, and clear instructions that didn't need repeating. You learned quickly how long things took, how to queue, how to speak up, and how to get back on time. Nobody tracked you, nobody hovered. What mattered most was the unspoken clock. You knew when you were expected home, not because someone checked, but because you understood responsibility. That quiet freedom built confidence step by step. Today, it sounds remarkable. Back then, it was ordinary. And that ordinariness shaped children into capable, alert young people, trusted not because they were fearless, but because they were learning, daily, to be dependable long before adulthood ever truly arrived. Childhood back then wasn't carefully divided by age or timetable. It was shared. Older children, younger ones, all mixed together, learning how to get along through experience rather than guidance. Games lasted until someone disagreed, and those moments were handled face to face. You learned when to stand your ground, when to step back, and when an apology mattered. There were no long explanations about feelings or fairness. You discovered both by doing. If something felt wrong, you adjusted. If it felt fair, you remembered it. Today, childhood often comes with careful instruction, rules discussed in advance, outcomes predicted. Back then, outcomes taught the lesson. That shared world built resilience without ceremony. You learned how to negotiate, how to wait your turn, and how to recover from disappointment without an audience. It wasn't harsh, it was practical. Those everyday interactions quietly prepared children for adult life. Long before they realized they were practicing it without being told it was a lesson at all, back then together naturally learned daily lives. When responsibility came before comfort, it rarely felt like a burden. It was simply how the day worked. Helping at home wasn't negotiated. It was noticed, expected, and quietly appreciated. Making beds, washing up, keeping an eye on a younger brother or sister all carried a sense of being needed. Those small duties taught consequences without lectures. If you forgot, someone else had more to do. If you remembered, the household ran smoother. That awareness built confidence in ways no praise ever could. You learned that your actions mattered. Today, comfort often comes first, with responsibility introduced gently later on. Back then, capability arrived early and stayed with you. It wasn't about hardship, and it wasn't about missing out. It was about knowing you could cope. That feeling formed in ordinary kitchens and front rooms, shaped how an entire generation saw themselves: useful, reliable, and quietly proud of what they could handle long before adulthood arrived and expectations shifted again. Looking back now, it isn't with anger or judgment, but with a kind of quiet awe. Childhood then asked more of you, yet it also gave more back in ways that are easy to overlook. Resilience grew naturally, not because anyone planned it, but because life required a little more self-reliance each day. Today, protection surrounds childhood more carefully. Supervision replaces freedom, and schedules replace wandering time. There is comfort in that, and progress too. But something subtle has shifted. Independence once crept in unnoticed, while now it is often delayed, managed, and explained. Memory softens the harder edges, of course, but it also highlights what mattered: the ability to cope, to decide, to recover without fuss. These were gifts disguised as normality. As we pause here, it's worth asking not what was better or worse, but what quietly shaped us, and whether some of that confidence is still waiting. So what changed? The world grew faster, louder, and more cautious. Childhood slowed down, wrapped in care and planning, yet what still matters hasn't disappeared. The values learned back then live quietly on: knowing how to manage yourself, how to notice others, how to cope when things don't go to plan. Those lessons didn't belong to an era. They belonged to people. And for those who grew up faster than expected, there remains a quiet pride in having learned early how to stand steadily in a changing world.